sports, a bridge that brings people together. And here in the Commonwealth, it's no different. From the gridiron to the hardwood and beyond, we all have a team we love to talk about. Now for the teams you care about, here's Heartland Sports Live with Trevor Rice.
And welcome back into Heartland Sports Live. Trevor Rice with you on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we live stream every show on ESPNKY.com. I have some special guests in the studio with me right now, representing Fort Knox football. Can you believe it? We're already talking about high school football. Yes, it's June, but August will be here before you know it. And I have three special individuals here with me. The head coach for Fort Knox football, Wes Arnold, and a couple of seniors who you'll hear quite a bit going into this next season. Trey Rousey, the senior quarterback. Sidney Gregney, who is senior wide receiver, defensive back as well, joining me on Heartland Sports Live. Thank you guys for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's look ahead to this next season because this is quite the turnaround for Fort Knox football. From a season ago, you guys had a lot of high expectations going into it. You lose some key pieces off of last year's roster, and now there's some expectations going into this. Now that you kind of have that feeling, that knowing of how to win and how to compete at a high level from last year that's going to carry over with the players who are returning this year, there is that expectation now, Coach. Talk about this year's team and what you expected, because last year, you set some goals. You didn't come through with all of them, but some of them you did meet. What's the challenge here in 2019?
Yeah, last year, not getting hired until mid-May and really inheriting a roster that, I didn't have a lot of time to get to know. It was a great surprise. We went 4-6 in the regular season and most wins in a regular season in 15 years and competed really well with a Russellville team, a good Russellville team in the playoffs. So I think we kind of snuck up on some people and caught a little bit off guard, but I don't think we'll have that issue this year. And our schedule's a little tougher because of our success last year, which is good. But even though a lot of people are saying, when I took the job, they were saying, well, everybody graduated, you're going to have to start over. And I knew that wasn't the case. And now people are saying, well, you graduated 10 seniors and, all these yards and everything. How are you going to replace that? But I think we're even be a better program this year because we've had a full year in the weight room and we've had a full year to develop the culture that I want for this team. And so the culture and the optimism and the buzz around our program is really exciting right now. So I'm really looking forward to this 2019 season.
Trey and Sidney, I'm going to talk to you boys about the transition because this will be your senior season, fourth year at Fort Knox, all 4 years. It's pretty rare, it seems like, for Fort Knox kids these days to spend an entire 4-year stretch of your high school tenure with with that one team. So talk to me about what it's like going into your senior seasons and the transition from going from one coaching staff to now what Coach Arnold and his staff is doing for you guys right now. So yeah, go ahead. I'll let either one of you speak here.
So after my sophomore year, we had Coach Wilson, and I wasn't going to play any longer. I didn't want to play football anymore. So I knew there was a new head coach coming in, but I just didn't know who it was. And it was Coach Arnold. And so I hadn't known Coach Arnold. He was at the middle school, and I didn't go to middle school here. But he came, and he talked, and he asked me if I wanted to play again. I said, I'll play for you. I'll give it a shot. And last year was probably my best year of high school football to date, and it was a great season, and the coaching staff he brought in did a lot of things, and there's some replacements this year for the coaching staff, but I think they fit in well, and they are all good coaches, and it's going to help us extremely this year rather than last year. There were some gaps in some places with the coaching staff, and I think this year he's got a full head of steam. We have a full year in the weight room. We have support from so many people on Fort Knox and around the area. It's going to be a very good year for us.
Sidney, you want to piggyback off of that?
Freshman and sophomore were really tough. I think the most games we won was 2 out of the 10. We went like 2-8. So it's kind of rough. We were both on the same page. We were like, maybe football here is just not what we want to do. We talked to our parents and stuff. But I knew Coach Arnold because I was here in middle school when I heard he was coming back. It's always a window of opportunity for anyone, whether they leave or come back. So, and we gave him that opportunity, and we stuck with it. Like he said, we had a new staff. it's kind of a trustworthy thing at first, getting to know new coaches and trying to actually listen to them and, learn the game more. But it was a hard transition, but a good one. It was much needed for Fort Knox. Like Trey said, we've been here for 4 years, and it's like, it's the same old Fort Knox, and now it's like it's our senior year, so it's our turn to make a difference, Even though it's our last season, we know that Fort Knox will be on the map, or this because of us or our coaching staff, or just this team from this year on, that will really make a difference and make Fort Knox who we really are.
We're talking Fort Knox football. They're the first team to come in here, previewing our 2019 season here. 106.1 ESPN Radio. We will actually wrap up the season with these boys taking on Caverna there at Fort Knox. Some big matchups going on here in 2019. I was talking to Trey and Sydney, Coach, before coming in here and doing this interview about that Fort Campbell rivalry and what it would mean to these guys to win that game. It's been a little bit, and 3 years now they've had to suffer the loss. You came close a year ago, and they would love nothing more than to come up with a victory in that game. Talk about the meaning behind, I guess you could say, the Army Bowl in this case, and what it would mean to get a victory in that game this year, especially being a tough contest on the road.
Yeah, last year it was a really good opportunity. We just came up a little short. But to win, we want to I'm trying to get this program over this hump that it's been under since 2002, I guess. And that's one of the humps that we need to get over. We need to have a winning record, and we need to beat Fort Campbell. So Fort Campbell, they've been a great program for a long time, and now it's almost become like a mental thing, I think, for our kids. And we just need to kind of punch through that wall, and it'd be huge for our program because it comes up every year. Well, it's been 16 years. Is this the year? Blah, blah, blah. And just to get rid of that. But I think it's, for our school and, to just really help our program, it'd be huge to come over the win. And obviously, that's not our only game on the schedule. We got 9 other ones that are just as important. But, yeah, I don't hide from that fact. Some coaches, they try to, say every game's the same. But it is a big game because it's a unique game to the rest of the country. And it's a unique situation with 2 military schools of all military children playing each other, and and they've dominated it. And so it would be good, for us to take that next step, is kind of get that thing off our back and kind of move on. And like I said, I don't downplay it because I think it's a huge game, and they're a rival, and you want to beat your rival, and they've beaten us enough. So now it's time for us to try to get one. So
yeah, and I was talking to these guys, and I'll let you answer this. I thought, being a bunch of military kids, there'd be a nice, friendly handshake. Oh, let's go out and have a great battle, and then we'll, go our separate ways at the end of it. But apparently there's trash talking that goes on the field. Talk about how intense it is, not only in that game, but in the regular season. Some of these teams that you face on a regular basis, maybe don't go into what is exactly said on the field, but talk about that it does get heated out there on the field. Talk about that as players.
Personally, I am a trash talker, so it's like, I get hit one time and I'm like, all right, that's how the game really starts, or you score your first touchdown, or you gain yards. And it's like we already have problems with it in our community, and it's like we don't even play the teams in our district. So when we go out all the way north, west, east Kentucky and play these teams, everyone's like, oh, you guys are just a small school, you can't handle the competition we have. So it kind of gives you that enthusiasm. It's like, a way of getting someone's head is by talking trash. And I think Fort Campbell, those guys, it's like a college game. They had a whiteout, what was it, 2 years ago? They had a whiteout, and they just think that they're going to blow us off every time. So, when you start talking a little bit, it kind of really shows who's really in it. And I always tell people, if you can't take a little bit of trash talk, don't play high school sports.
What about you, Trey? You play the quarterback position. I'm sure you get the most heat.
Yeah, so personally, I'm not that big of a trash talker, but I'm very competitive. So last year, it got interesting in some ways because we'd have a few guys that would start talking and everybody would start talking. So therefore, you got to give him peace of mind, Sometimes you have to settle down your team, but other times keep talking, keep the energy up. I like it. And there's teams around this area that won't be named, but they love to trash talk, and we'd had to go there last year on the road, and they kept trash talking. We won the game, but they'd always talk. And the Army Bowl, as most people call it, is very interesting to say the least. It's kind of like the Army-Navy game. I mean, we're both military kids. All of our parents serve the country in some way or another. And sooner or later, we'll probably all mingle at some point. Like, I was just at Boise State, and I roomed with a kid from Fort Campbell. So it's kind of interesting, considering he knew who I was, and I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And so there's a bond there for sure, because we're both military kids, whatever against the world. We've all had to go through the same thing, but we hate each other to death. I promise you, we hate each other to death. It's interesting out there for sure.
It is.
We're talking Fort Knox football right now. I have head coach Wes Arnold. I have senior quarterback Trey Rousey and Sidney Gradney, who is a senior wide receiver and defensive back for this Fort Knox Eagles team, who we are previewing. And a year ago, saw some definitely a shift on that in that program, Coach. And now you come in here. What are the goals here in 2019 for Fort Knox football? Obviously, you would love to win, but with this group of kids that you're coming in here with this season, I feel like you're not going to be as worn down later on in games. I hear from them that you're going to have a bigger roster. That's going to be beneficial, right? Going into week one.
Yeah, I really think this is going to be the biggest team. I've been in and around this program. This will be my 10th year. I had 3 years at Central, and I still was around the program. So in my 10 years, I don't think we've ever had a roster as big as we're going to have this year. Like, we're going to have 40 plus, maybe even close to 50 when it's all said and done. And I'm really excited about that, because in a time when less people are playing football and we're a single-A school, to have those kind of numbers is great. The biggest thing that I'm going to rely on these guys for is we are young. Out of the 40-plus we got 25-plus freshmen or sophomores, So last year we had a lot of talent and we were senior loaded, but, they were from kind of the old culture, so it wasn't as – but this year these guys are all part of our new culture. And, like, at practice we got tons of kids there. June's always a tough month for us because we have so many kids that – have to go visit other parents or have to go out of state for various reasons. But even with that, we have 25 plus coming. So, the biggest thing is at the beginning of the year, when we come back on July 10th from the dead period, we'll have 30 days till our first scrimmage, So getting everybody up to speed, getting everybody on the same page, that's kind of going to be the real challenge. And then goal-wise, I still have the same goals that we had last year, is that we want to have a winning record, we want to beat Fort Campbell, and we want to host a home playoff game. Because those are 3 long droughts we have going. 2002, last winning season, last Army Bowl win, and then they haven't hosted a playoff game since 1997. So for me as a coach, each player, I hope they all have their own high season goals. But as a team, that's what I want to see us. And I just want to keep this positive momentum going that we have in our program. Like Trey said, there's a lot of excitement. We got new uniforms, our administration. We have a great principal in Mr. Gilmore, who is really supportive of athletics, and he wants to see this thing get off and going. We're getting a brand renovated locker room this summer. So there's a lot of good things happening, and if we keep winning, then more people will want to come and be a part of our program, because we can offer things that many of the other schools in the area can't. And if we can just get the athletics going, and especially the football team, then I think that's just going to be a huge deal for our school and our program.
You had mentioned the new uniforms. I know that is something that, as a player, you look forward to, getting some new uniforms, looking good. You got to look good to play good, right? Right, boys? Right. Talk about the new uniforms and what you expect.
Personally, I like them. Like you kind of just said, you got to look at the play good. I'm always a player of fashion, so when we tried them on, I was like, let's go play right now, But I personally like them. I think most of the team knows about it. And it's just, like Coach Arnold said, the culture is really changing around here. And it's always been a good thing for Fort Knox because, like I said earlier, it's always old Knox. And now that the culture's finally changing, even though we are only a part of it for a year, it's going to be a good 1 year of the culture changing.
Yeah, talk about that. You guys are pretty much there on the front line of making this thing happen really for the future of Fort Knox football. What does that mean to you guys?
Oh, it's a really big deal to me. So my oldest sister graduated from here. My other sister graduated from Fort Knox. And to see the culture change so much over the years and it kind of go downhill in a sense. And last year it'd be the start of a new era with Coach Arnold. I think it's impressing people around the area and it's impressing people that are moving in. So if you look up Fort Knox on, Google, you might not find anything but a picture of the gold vault. And we want that to be Fort Knox football, Fort Knox basketball, Fort Knox track. And our track team is very good, if you ask me. And if we get these athletes to stay on Fort Knox instead of moving off post, we change the culture and we shift the tide of everything. And we push to put Fort Knox on top again, just like it was in the 80s and 90s, in my opinion.
Coach, I know one of your biggest objectives when you first arrived last year, you were already there, but as far as becoming the head coach and you wanted to get more bodies on the team, that you were really supportive of, getting some of those track kids and such. And it seems like that's one of the things I've noticed about you. You're very supportive of the other athletic programs, and it pretty much lets them know that, hey, I've got your back. You come play with me. Let's do this. And it seems like you've built up a really solid relationship with your players. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I encourage all my athletes to play multiple sports because you only get one shot at high school anyway. So I always think it's selfish of coaches to not share athletes. So, but yeah, it took a lot of work on my end. I got some of those kids to come out last year, but we got a lot of those kids to come out now. I went to, these guys will tell you, I was at just about every basketball game, home or away, and I tote my kids with me. My kids ate more Skittles and popcorn than they probably should. But but just being that presence, and I go to track meets and I go to baseball games and I'm at basketball and I go to all our female sports too, just because it's important to support our fellow student athletes. But just building that relationship. I didn't take one lunch period last year because when it was my lunch period, I was in the gym or I was in the commons area, just meeting every kid I could and building that relationship to try to entice them to come out and play football. And it's really paid off. Like I said, we're going to have 40 plus on the roster. There's 5A schools that would like to have 40 kids on their varsity roster, So, that's what I'm all about. And I told the kids when I took the job that this was a year-round job for me. It wasn't a June to November deal. I'm always working on our program, and it's tiring and it can be draining, but, the product on the field is going to be better. Our numbers are so much better. And like I said, I'm really excited for where we're heading. And it's taken a lot of work on my end. The place wasn't in the greatest shape when I took it over, but in a year's time, it's really shifted, and it's kind of neat to see your work pay off, and it's exciting. So,
Trey and Sydney, you guys are going to be leaders on this team, obviously, going into 2019. We've spoken about a lot of the young guys who are going to be coming, a lot of freshmen and sophomores, how they're looking to you as kind of that mentor role. Talk about that and how maybe you've embraced that role going into this season.
So the younger kids, a lot of the kids, they're all going to look up to us. Like when we were in the weight room, they'd watch us lift. So it's really hard to slack. You can't just lay back and, just let things happen. In the past, like my freshman year, we had seniors that they didn't push themselves as hard as they could. And so I see that and be like, well, I don't have to push myself. They aren't. They're the seniors. And it's part of changing the culture that while you're in the weight room, while you're on the field, you're pushing yourself every single time. You're showing them, you're leading by example. This is what you got to do. This is how it needs to be done, and you need to talk this way. You need to say, yes, sir, yes, coach, yes. You got to run, get off the field, do whatever you need to do. You have to show and change this culture to these little kids, these younger middle schoolers that are coming up, because they might be goofballs, they might be whatever, but when you come on the field and when you're under Coach Arnold's watch, you got to be young men. You can't be little kids anymore.
Definitely. You want to add to that?
Yeah, like he said, we grew up with our senior class just not caring, and we always told people, we don't want to be those guys. We don't want to be the guys picking on the younger kids. And, I think one of our players like, oh, don't let Trey and Sydney take over his team. We're like, well, we could win all 10 games, and if I don't score one touchdown, we're still going to be happy because we won the game as a team. So it's more of a unit than, okay, we're going to do our senior thing and try to show out and get a scholarship, and you guys are just going to play football. No, we're just going to come as a collective and lead them in a way. Even though we're only here for them for 1 year, we want them to be like, okay, they're leaders. We don't have to wait till our senior year to lead. We can lead our freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. And it's just something that we and the coaches, have a role to play on this team. And by being a leader and less than that, a senior, that role has to be fulfilled. And personally, this is probably the best senior class that will and are capable of doing that.
We're talking Fort Knox football on Heartland Sports Live. I have head coach Wes Arnold, Trey Rousey, and Sidney Gradney, seniors for this year's Fort Knox Eagles team. And we're previewing their 2019 season, which is going to be a fun one because last year there was the whole, I guess there was that honeymoon period trying to figure out each other, new coaching staff, kids trying to adjust to what the coaches are wanting. Now you guys have a better grasp of what you're expecting going into this season. So how much more fluid do you think the offense and the defense, for that matter, how you guys are going to approach the game? Obviously, you practice throughout the week. How much more simpler is it going to be for the team this season, knowing of what the coaches are looking for?
Personally, being the quarterback, last year, before even summer practices started, Coach Arnold gave me the playbook. He said, learn it. Learn the plays, learn the routes, learn everything. And I took it to heart, and I drew down on a whiteboard, whatever it took. I memorized the playbook, and now it's back in my hand. So with these younger kids coming in, I can tell them what to do even more thoroughly than I did last year because the seniors on the team, I expect them, study your playbook too. You have a job. You can do it. You're grown men. You're older than I am. You can study the playbook. So now these younger kids kind of got to guide them a little bit more. I think it's going to be easier, and the offense is going to move much smoother. In my second year in the offense, I'm very comfortable with Coach Arnold playing calls. And towards the end of the season, you can see that. Me and Coach clicked. He asked what I see. I told him what I saw. And vice versa. We could communicate back and forth on the field like that. And I think it's just going to move much smoother this year in our second year.
You want to piggyback off of that?
On the defensive side, being a free safety, you kind of see everything. So it's my role to tell the coaches who's doing this and how to improve. So I think on the defensive side, it's gotten a lot better. We have a new coach from Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. Georgia Southern. He's currently up here working with us right now, and it's just good to have coaches that know more than one position because a lot of big schools, they have certain coaches that only do certain things. And for the new coaching staff this year, it's they all have a wide variety of the game. So it's you don't have to just go up to Coach Arnold if he's busy. You can ask another coach, hey, what do I do on this play? You can even ask us, hey, what do I do on this play? And it's grown. It really has. At a point in time, I didn't care. I was okay, if they don't know what they're doing, it's on them. But now it's okay, look, I got your back. If you mess up, I'm going to tell you mess up. But if you do mess up, we always say mess up fast. So if the corner gets burnt, I have help over top. I always tell them, you do your job. If you mess up, I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. So it's grown, and I really enjoy playing with younger kids. We have a young corner, Julian. He never played football last year. He was a soccer player. And when you saw him play, he looked like a third-year player. He's gotten a lot bigger, a lot faster, a lot stronger. And you couldn't tell, that he was just a freshman last year. So to see players like him, grow and continue to grow and under our leadership and under our wing, it just seems like a successful thing. Whether we lose the game by 10 or 20, if you did your job at the end of the day, if you gave 110%, that the game was really won in your heart. Maybe not physically by the scoreboard, but as a team, we won a lot of games.
I know the dead periods will be here before you know it, and you guys are going to plan to have a little bit of fun this summer. And I guess my question is, what do you plan to do before you get back to, okay, we got to work our butts off to make this 2019 season a successful one?
I always tell people the grind doesn't stop. Me and him went out yesterday, threw a few routes. It's the little things that I try to teach the younger kids is, to do stuff even when coach isn't looking. You have to take time out of your day to get better. And personally for us, that's pretty much what we do. Last summer we worked, we hung out, threw routes, learned the playbook. So this summer, I think we're going to try to get some of the younger kids together and teach them early so that way when we come back from our dead period, they're not oh, what do I do here? What do I do here? We're trying to have really a team bond to where there's no questions, where everyone knows, what to do and what not to do. And I think that's pretty much the summer plan. We both drive. I got a small car, but I can fit a few people in the back, but it's just the bond in the off season that really counts. So that way when the season comes, it's not oh, what's your name? I don't know you. It's okay, look, if you need help in class, if you need to know where to go, we as leaders and seniors, we're here to help them. So we kind of keep our doors open, to them, even though we might not know who they are. That's our role, and it hasn't been fulfilled in the last 4 years. So for us, we got big shoes to fill that probably have never been filled in a while, and for us to know what we're doing, it really helps. So I feel like it'll be a good off season in the summer.
Yeah, so the dead period, in my opinion, is probably the worst part of the summer because you can't do anything with the coach. So in the past, we've relaxed a little bit, gone on vacation. And so this year, I might go on a trip or two with my family. I might go up to Kentucky Kingdom. I think the biggest thing is trying to build a bond with those younger kids. Like, my name's Trey, you're named whatever. This is what we're going to do. We're going to hang out. We're going to throw. We're going to do whatever it takes. We're going to build a relationship with each other. You can be my little brother. I don't care. I'll take care of you. When school comes, you need help on algebra, I got you. You need help with history, I got you. You need to find a teacher, I know where the classroom is. We just build a relationship, change the culture. So by the time they're a junior or they're a senior, they can take that freshman or eighth grader underneath their wing and just do the same exact thing.
What about you, Coach?
Well, that sounds a lot more impressive. I'm going to Florida. So, so I told them I'll leave Friday for Florida. And I said, don't call me for a couple of days. So, that's part of our culture shift right there. There was a time, even when I was here as an assistant, that the dead period meant everybody go lay around for 3 weeks, and we got guys now wanting to get together and throw and work out. And, that's why I think that something special is going to happen this year. And these guys are going to be able to look back one day and know that they were part of the thing that kind of springboarded Fort Knox back into relevancy and back to its winning ways. And I said it's just so different from where it was a year ago. So
obviously you had some thoughts going into last season being your first year at Fort Knox. How are you feeling going into year two?
I'm a lot more comfortable. Like I said, I knew it was going to be a rebuilding task when I took this over. There were some things that I didn't find out until after I took the job that have made it even more of a challenge, but that all that's in the past now, So, and I said, I made the common mistake that every first-year coach told, and Coach Manley told me that too. He said, you're going to spread yourself too thin, and that's normal. And I did. And last year, because of the timing of my hire, I had to kind of, get 4 guys to coach that, knew football. But this year, but I ended up having to call the offense and the defense, which that was just too much, And our team suffered some, even though we won. I had to split myself 2 ways. This year we got 2 new coaches in. One of them being Coach Rogers, as Sydney talked about. He played at Georgia Southern, and I'm so thankful he fell into my lap. He's coming over from Ballard, which is a state pro power up in Louisville, and he's going to take over the defense. So I've already felt way more relaxed this month of June because on defensive days, I just get to show up and say, all right, Coach Rogers, what do you need me to do? Rather than planning out every single practice and every single moment. And, now after a game on Friday, I can break down the offense and he'll break down the defense, and our team will be better for that. We'll be much more prepared. Last year, we kind of won some games on athleticism and being a little bit better coached than our opponents. This year, I know we're going to be so much better coached in all sides and facets of the game. So I just feel a lot more at ease. It's easier. It's great now. Even though we graduated a lot, I got a lot of kids that have been through all our drills. So instead of having to show how to do the drill, I can have a player demonstrate it, or there's already kids that know how to do it. So, it's just so much better in year 2. And like I said, I feel a lot more relaxed, a lot more comfortable. As Trey said, about halfway through the year, we kind of figured out what we got to do offensively. So now I got a better view on that. I came from Central where we were more of a power wing T team, and I learned in the first game we ain't going to be able to line up and run over people, So, and that's why, we started 0-3, but then we went 4-4 down the stretch, So, I know what to do now. I know what we're going to do offensively. Coach Rogers knows what he's doing defensively, and all our other assistant coaches are awesome. So, like I said, it's going to be – and I feel a lot better about year 2 than I do year 1. So,
well, we're looking forward to seeing you guys. We're going to have the last game of the regular season, which I believe is November 1st. You guys will be taking on Caverna, so we'll get to see you.
Hey, these guys see
then.
tonight.
And Yeah, it'll be your guys' final regular season. We're not going to say final game because you're going to go to the postseason. You're going to have a strong run. So we're not going to say that's your final game, but final home game, I guess you could say, of the regular season. We will see you guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really curious to see just how far this team has come in year number 2. Yes, you've lost a lot of talented pieces from a year ago, but I feel like that you have a good foundation here to keep this train rolling and have a strong 2019 season. This has been Fort Knox Football Preview 2019 here on Heartland Sports Live. I've had head coach Wes Arnold. I've had senior quarterback Trey Rousey and senior wide receiver Sidney Gragney in the studio with me. And boys, I appreciate your time. It has been fun, and we will see you again later this year.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Special thanks to Fort Knox Football for coming in here and previewing their 2019 season. If you missed this interview, well, guess what? You can go back and check it out on our website, espnky.com, come tomorrow when we have it uploaded. So before we get back to more Heartland Sports Live after the break, I need to say that this hour is powered by CC Power Sports, where you can get a new jet ski for an incredibly low season opening price. CC Power Sports, they're off exit 121, just south of the Snyder at Brooks Road off I-65. Heartland Sports Live continues right after this on 106.1 ESPN Radio. Welcome back to Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM. We are live streaming as well, espnky.com. Just go and click on the link there. You can also go back and listen to every single show. Maybe there was an interview you wanted to hear that you missed. For example, our discussion with Fort Knox football in that opening segment, which was a long one, but it was well worth it, as we will be previewing all of the high school football teams here in Hardin County, and I'll invite LaRue County up here in the coming weeks as well. After the dead period. The dead period's coming up, of course, and so we'll have to wait to get some of those interviews with some of the other area teams coming up here in the month of July. But you can go to a link that I have pinned to my Twitter account at Radio Trevor Rice. Follow me on there and go and listen back and download every show on my Twitter account where I have a link. And so I want to thank Fort Knox Football for coming in last segment, of course, and we previewed their 2019 season. We'll have them at the end of the 2019 regular season. November 1st is where you'll hear the Fort Knox Eagles as they take on the Caverna Colonels, and Caverna will be visiting Fort Knox in November, so we'll have that game to wrap up the season. And I guess basically send those seniors off. I'm not going to say it's their final game. I'd like to see Fort Knox in the postseason. They saw a much improved team a year ago. I would expect the players coming back this year are going to have they'll have a good starting foundation to get things going for Fort Knox football this year. But like I said, I hope to get Central Hardin here before the football season begins. I hope to get John Hardin, North Hardin, Elizabethtown in here, and LaRue County as well. So go ahead and follow me on social media at Radio Trevor Rice on Twitter to find out when I will have each of those programs in for the next Heartland Sports Live, which it's going to be a busy next few weeks for me because, of course, we're looking at the Kentucky Speedway, having the Quaker State 400, as well as the Xfinity, and also the Truck Series will be at Kentucky Speedway come early July. And you just look at that race. Obviously, the two favorites you're looking at going into that one are going to be, one, Kyle Busch. Brad Keselowski has been good, and of course, they've been good all year round, that is, as well as Martin Truex Jr., who just won again this past week at Sonoma. So you would expect those three to be the top dogs, and then you expect guys like Kevin Harvick to maybe have a strong run as well. And just more of your veteran drivers. It seems like the veteran drivers have definitely adapted to what Kentucky Speedway has more so than what a lot of these younger guys coming up through the ranks have been able to do in recent history. And I would expect, a guy like Chase Elliott to maybe make some noise. Kyle Larson could have something to say before it's all said and done at this race as well. But I would expect those main three, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. to be your front runners at that track. And then, maybe a fifth place car in Kevin Harvick, maybe one of his teammates, and Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, or maybe Daniel Suarez could make a run in that race as well. We'll see when it comes to that. Hopefully I can have somebody from the Kentucky Speedway on next week's show to preview that race, because there are unique ends to both turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Very unique from one another, especially as you head into turn 3. And we'll see if maybe another year of this pavement, we might see a different racing style here in 2019 at the Quaker State 400 early next month. So that's what's looking ahead here, as we are your home for the Cincinnati Reds. So you can always catch the Redlegs here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. We also have the games on 1400 AM, and they had a 4-game series with the Milwaukee Brewers over the weekend. Ended up splitting 2 games. They won Thursday and Friday, then ended up dropping Saturday and Sunday. Now they're back 4 games below 500. That seems to be the story for the Redlegs this season, as they are 36 and 40 overall. They rattled out 6 games in a row where they ended up winning. Last week was looking pretty good coming out of that previous weekend. They were looking pretty good going into this Saturday and Sunday matchup series with Milwaukee, because between Yasiel Puig, who's starting to connect with the ball here frequently, especially hitting home runs, just looking at what they did, they swept the Astros. I don't think anybody expected the Redlegs to sweep the Astros. The Astros are one of the better teams in Major League Baseball this season, and one of the favorites you would have to thank to get to the World Series. Ended up sweeping them Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. All close games, but the Reds showed that they can limit Houston offensively and yet still be able to produce enough on their own offensive side to come out on wins. It actually had a come-from-behind victory there in the bottom of the 9th inning on Wednesday to secure that 3-2 victory over the Astros on Wednesday. But just before that, you thought maybe there was going to be some spillover from that Rangers series, especially the way that Houston's been just dominating this season. They had the Texas Rangers. They ended up dropping 7-1 that previous Friday, the 14th, and the 15th ended up losing that Saturday 4-3. And you were just thinking to yourself of the Reds, because I believe they were around like 8 games below 500 at that point. You're pretty much expecting the just everything to just fall apart at this point. Then they get that big 11-3 victory Sunday, June 16th over the Rangers. And talking to Joe Zarahusen, I had some concerns myself, but he was just like, yeah, you never know what you could expect on last week's Heartland Sports Live. And then, well, it come to find out the Reds showed up to play. They won 3-2 against the Astros last Monday, winning 4-3 last Tuesday, and then another nail biter, 3-2. Like I said, winning in the bottom of the 9th last Wednesday, before winning 2 straight against the Brewers Thursday and Friday, 7-1. A couple of big game performances offensively for the Redlegs, 11-7 on Friday, which that probably could have been a bigger blowout, but the Brewers ended up scoring, I think it was like the 7th or 8th inning, a couple of extra runs to make that game a little tighter than what that game actually was for the most part. Then the Reds dropped a close one on Saturday, losing 6-5, losing 7-5 yesterday in a close one. And now looking ahead, it doesn't get any easier. They'll play a 2-game short series with the Angels on the road this week, tomorrow and Wednesday. A late game, 10:07 tomorrow night here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. Then an 8 p.m., 8:07 game on Wednesday before coming back home and taking on the Cubbies this weekend. They'll have a Thursday off. Then they'll play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Cubs. 7:10 Friday night, 4:10 Saturday, 1:10 Sunday afternoon, and then taking on the Brewers at home next week. Maybe they can try to get the sweep there where I thought there was going to be a sweep over the weekend, but the Brewers ended up collecting themselves and getting something going for Saturday and Sunday. They'll play the Brewers on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, all 3 games at 7:10, and then they'll play a 4th game in the early afternoon that Thursday, July 4th. It'll be a 2:10 afternoon game. So that's what's going on with the Redlegs here, and you would like to see them, I don't know, get back on the winning way here. Now they're 4 games below 500, maybe get near that 500 mark. The All-Star break coming up this next month. So you would hope that they could at least get to that mark. And I think things are relatively close. I think everything, just looking at the grand scheme of things here, 6 games below top to bottom in the National League Central. So it's still within striking distance of this league. And if the Reds can just rattle off another 6-game winning streak, they could be right there in the hunt by the All-Star break, which would be fantastic considering how this 2019 season began. You were wondering, oh no, this roster. We thought we were looking good, and then they only win one of their first 10 games. They finally start to rattle off a few victories to get a little closer to 500, but they've been just rattling right there. They've just been on that edge of getting to 500. It seems like every time they flirted with it, then they drop a couple and they're back now 4 games below 500. And like I said, it's been around that 3 to 6 games below 500 for a long time now. They've just never been able to get over that hump and get to the 500 mark. And we'll see if they can do that here in the next couple of weeks before the All-Star break and maybe make some noise in the second half of the season, because it's well within striking distance right now, the National League Central, in which I want to look up the National League Central real quick, because I was looking at it over the weekend just to see how close things were. And I mean, the Reds right now, they are 5.5 games back, tied with the Pirates 5.5 games back. So everything within 6 games right now. The Cardinals are 2 games back as they beat the Angels. Excuse me, I think they lost. They may have lost to the Angels last night. I don't remember, but they were in a 4-game series with the Angels over the weekend. So just looking at the overall records here, the Cubbies are 42-35 overall. The Brewers are 42-36, a half game back. The Cardinals are 40-37, 2 games back. The Reds and the Pirates both 36-40, 5.5 games back. And the thing that I think might be surprising to a lot of Reds fans is just how much this team has connected with the bat. On ball since this, I guess you could say that not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before against the Rangers when they scored 11 runs that game. Just how much this team has really just started to come together over the last week and really start to put up the run production that you would expect, and on top of it, have some solid defensive play at times as well. So we'll see if they can continue that moving forward, and you'll be able to catch every single game here on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM as well. So if anytime you see the Reds playing this summer, just know that you'll be able to catch it here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. Trevor Rice in with you. It's Heartland Sports Live. We're going to come back and we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank Fort Knox football for once again coming in this hour and talking with us about their 2019 season. It's Heartland Sports Live, 106.1 ESPN Radio. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM. We also live stream on ESPNKY.com. Fort Knox football coming in our first segment. You'll be able to go back and listen to that interview tomorrow when we have the program loaded up on ESPNKY.com. I'll send a link out there. Follow me on social media at Radio Trevor Rice on Twitter, and you'll see my post on there as well in concerns to sharing it. Well, this hour is powered by CC Power Sports, where you can get a new jet ski for an incredibly low season opening price. CC Power Sports off of exit 121, just south of the Snyder at Brooks Road off I-65. I do have one more bobblehead in here for the Cincinnati Redlegs, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to tell you that I need a winner. So go ahead and text 270-982-1073. Go ahead and text to that number the word Reds along with your name, and the first person to do so when I check it will be our winner of that bobblehead, and I'll let you know. I'll go ahead and text you back. If it's not this afternoon, it will be first thing tomorrow when I get in. That's 270-982-1073. If you want a Reds bobblehead right now, go ahead and text that number, 270-982-1073. 270-982-1073. I have a Reds bobblehead in here for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll just go ahead and respond to the first person who ends up texting that line. If it's not this evening, like I said, it'll be the first thing tomorrow when I come back in. So if you're a Reds fan, take advantage and try to win yourself a bobblehead. We had a couple of winners last week. We'll have more winners this summer when the Reds end up shipping us some more bobbleheads to not only add to our own collection, but we share the wealth here. We share with you guys, and you'll be having more opportunities come this summer. Well, real quick, I want to say that you've probably heard the promo a couple of times. Going on the 12th of August, if you are a Kentucky Wildcats fan and a fan of Kentucky Sports Radio, which we air weekdays 10 until noon, I want you to mark this in your calendars. It'll be Monday, August 12th. Kentucky Sports Radio will be on their summer tour, and they're going to be in Hardin County, a Kentucky Jeep and Truck. So mark your calendars. Their Monday, August 12th show, they're going to be in Hardin County at Kentucky Jeep and Truck, and you will be able to go and see the show live here in Hardin County. We're trying to fill up the joint, and we want you to be a part of the party. So go ahead and mark your calendars, Kentucky Wildcats fans. That's Monday, August 12th. The show 10 until noon, of course, and Kentucky Sports Radio, Matt Jones, Ryan Lemon, Shannon, Drew, the crew, they are going to be in Hardin County Monday, August 12th here in Hardin County, Kentucky Jeep and Truck. Just make sure you have it in your calendars, and we want to load that place up with people. So go ahead and have that in your calendar because we want to see you out there. 106.1 ESPN Radio will be out there as well, so hopefully you can join us and the guys at KSR. Trevor Rice with you. That'll do it for me. That's pretty much it. I want to thank Fort Knox once again for stopping by and talking to me here, previewing their 2019 season. Again, after the dead period, we're going to have the other high schools in the area in here as well from Hardin County. So we'll have Central Hardin, John Hardin, also North Hardin and Elizabethtown in the studio. I'll invite LaRue County up here in the coming weeks as well. We're going to get everybody in here talking about their 2019 seasons because all of those teams just mentioned right there are going to appear on our 2019 Hardin County schedule, which is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Going to have some renewed rivalries in the area. It's going to be fun. Bobby Thompson and myself will be on the call for that action, and we hope you join us for the football season. Hopefully you'll join me next week for more Heartland Sports Live. It's 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and catch the show on ESPNKY.com. I'll actually upload this show. I'll get this show uploaded from our guy down in Bowling Green tomorrow, and I'll go ahead and tweet that out. Follow me on social media at Radio Trevor Rice on Twitter. You can also like me, Trevor Rice on -air on Facebook as well. Have a fantastic sports week, everybody. Let's go ahead and see you back here next Monday. It's Heartland Sports Live, 5 until 6. See you then.